Hey, what's up guys, Alex here. Thank you for checking this video and welcome to the episode number 47 of the series of tutorial on how to build a premium theme for WordPress. Welcome again. In this tutorial we're gonna take a look finally on how to create the sidebar. Before jumping on that though, I want to just flag that out that in between episode 46 and episode 47, the current one, I styled by myself the comment section, the list of comments. It's something that I ask you to do it. If you want to do it, it's just a simple CSS styling or Sass styling in our case. So it's totally up to you if you want to actually do it, or if you don't want to style the comment section by yourself, you can grab this code, the Sass code, to be perfectly synced with me from my GitHub repo. You can find the link of the GitHub repo in the description below this video or every video of the premium theme developer series. So let's jump straight into taking a look on how this sidebar should work, has to work. And if you have the PSD file, you can take a look by yourself. So this is gonna be pretty much a standard type of sidebar drawer that has an absolute position to the right. And when we click on this little button over here on top of the header, we should see this sidebar sliding in with a nice animation. And basically we have to block the scroll of the home page, allow just to scroll the content of the sidebar, and the sidebar has to be dynamic, it has to be a proper sidebar of WordPress, so every user can put or remove whatever type of widget they want without us limiting this kind of stuff. Let's access our text editor, and because the sidebar has to be accessible and reachable in every page, in every section, I don't wanna create a sidebar like I did, or use the sidebar like it's based like by default in WordPress, where you have the function to get the header, to get the footer, and get the sidebar. I don't want to repeat the get the sidebar in every page or section if I have custom pages. The thing that I want to do, I want to implement it just once and has to be reachable in every section. So to do that, I have to use the header, the header.php. The header is used in absolutely in every pages of my theme. So in this case, I'm pretty sure that the sidebar is going to be reachable everywhere without any sort of issue, any sort of problem. So let's put it right inside the body before the definition of the container fluid, where we have all our stuff. We have the header, we have the opening of below the container fluid, we have the entire body, all our content. I want the sidebar to be on top of everything. So right after the body, let's write here what we want to write. First, let's define a div with a class called sunset sidebar. Open and close. Let's create another div inside that we need in order to make this sidebar scrollable, and I'm gonna define a class of this sidebar scroll. And then here, for now, is just as an example, we can call with the standard WordPress function, open and close the PHP tags, get underscore sidebar. Let's save it. Let's go back in our front end, and before doing anything else, let's access our administration panel. Inside the administration panel, let's access the appearance section. And we notice here we don't have any sidebar defined because we didn't activate any function, any sidebar in our backend, in our source code. So we have to take care of that. Otherwise, the sidebar is going to be completely empty and the user cannot manage the content of the sidebar. So let's access back our code editor. In the ink folder, we can access the theme support option page. And here we can define and generate our sidebar. So let's copy a title section, whatever. I'm gonna put everything before the blog loop custom functions because the sidebar, it's a pretty standard section of WordPress. So you can generate it before all your custom stuff. I don't want to put it below. It's not a mistake. It's not a guideline. You can put it wherever you want, but I prefer to put it right here, right after the standard theme support options activated by the user. So let's give this comment sidebar functions. And here we can activate our sidebar. Let's first create a function called sunset underscore sidebar underscore init, that stands for initialization of our sidebar. And here we can use a default function of WordPress to initialize and generate a sidebar. I already did a tutorial about this topic, how to create a custom sidebar, and it's in the WP 101 for beginner developers series. If you have no idea what I'm doing here, I strongly suggest you to go check the video that it's linked in the description below and on the top card to the right of the video. And if you're if you're confused, just check the video. It's super quick, it's super easy, and then you can jump back right into it. I'm not gonna explain back everything I'm doing to generate a sidebar because I already did that video. So if you're confused, just check the previous video. Perfect. And then we can declare right after the closing of the function sunset sidebar init the action that WordPress needs to use in order to initialize a widget area. So we can have the action widgets init, and then we have to specify the name of the function that we generated as a string to be initialized as a widget initialization action. Let's save it. Let's go back in our front end. And if we refresh, nothing is broken, but if we go in appearance, we're gonna see that now we have this widgets area that just appeared. And if we access it, we're gonna have the sunset sidebar with our description that we defined. So let's start populating a little bit the sidebar with the stuff that we have. So first of all, I want the categories because I know that I have categories. And if we access the design, see the title is categories, we have the count, so we have to define these categories, display, show, post count, perfect. Then the other stuff that we can have, gallery, recent comments, tags, and links. So recent comments right below, and we have the title that is recent comments, number of comments to show 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say 4 because I don't want too much. Save this stuff, save this stuff. Then we have our tag cloud and we can have tags, save it. And that's it. These are the default WordPress widgets that we can use in our sidebar. The other widgets that are missing, we're gonna code them by ourselves, so no problem. Let's go back and let's access again our front end. Let's refresh. And of course, we have an error. First, we have the sidebar here that it's super weird, but it's showing what a default sidebar of WordPress has. It's not showing the actual sidebar that we define in here. As you can see, we have just category, recent comments. Maybe if I use the proper word here, recent comments and tags. Here the sidebar has a search form, pages, archives, categories, and meta. It's something that we didn't define, we didn't want. Plus we have this error that we don't have any sidebar.php file defined, and since version 3, calling the sidebar without a sidebar.php file is deprecated. So we have to do, it's pretty much similar what we did for the comment. We have to go back in our list of files in the base folder of our theme and create a new file called simply sidebar.php. If we go here, we grab the title. We save it. If we refresh the home page, if we refresh the front end, of course, nothing appears because now we have the sidebar.php file. So WordPress is using that one, but we didn't define anything in that file. It's completely empty. So WordPress doesn't know what to print. What we have to do, we have to simply code the proper sidebar that we need, that we declared. So first we need to do a security check, a safety check. So we have to check if with a simple if statement. he's not, so we're using an exclamation mark, he's not is active sidebar. So we have to check if the sidebar that we want to print is not active. If it's not active, we have to simply return null. We have to return nothing. So we're gonna stop the execution of this script if the sidebar is deactivated, is not active, is not configured, there's nothing inside. So we're pretty safe. We're not gonna print the sidebar.php file if the sidebar is empty. The sidebar, to detect which sidebar is active and which one we care, we have to specify the same ID that we specified in our theme support page when we register the sidebar, the sunset sidebar. This is the ID that we have to use to print it, check it, and call it whenever we want. So let's paste it here. Now we have this if statement. So if it's not defined, if it's not active, the page just returns and stops the execution. Otherwise, we can simply use our beloved aside HTML5 markup, create an ID that WordPress likes to have this as secondary because the body is defined as primary. This one is secondary. Let's create a class and you can put whatever you want. The default classes of WordPress is like widget area, and we have to define maybe widget -rel, and we have to define a role, an HTML5 role, to specify the browser that this section is a complementary section of our HTML structure and is not like a primary section. Inside here, inside the aside HTML5 markup, we can open the PHP tags and use the function, the default function of WordPress, to print our custom sidebar. And to call it, we have to call the function dynamic_sidebar. And here we have to specify once again, the ID of the sidebar that we define. We don't have to put any echo, any print. This function automatically will return everything we have in our sidebar. So if we save it, we go back in our front end, we refresh, now we have our wonderful sidebar printed on top of everything because that's where we call the sidebar. And as you can see here, we have all the widgets that we defined, the categories, the post, the recent categories, and the number of posts associated to those, recent comments and tags that are just beautiful. Look at that, how automatically they change size based on popularity, based on how many topics there are in those specific tags. And that's wonderful. Now we have to do a little bit of CSS styling because of course right now it's super ugly. Let's go back in our text editor, in our code editor. Let's access the sunset.scss file. Let's scroll down to the bottom, and right after the comment section, we can copy one comment. And let's paste here the sidebar section. And now we can start styling based on the classes that we defined. So first, let's access the header. We can close comments, theme support, and sidebar. We won't need those pages for now. Let's call this sunset sidebar. And this is the top container. So this is the container that we're gonna use to define the sidebar with a specific style and animate that specific sidebar. We won't need to use them. We don't absolutely have to use something inside the main container to animate the appearing effects, because that could be super tricky to animate and to manage. We have the main container. The main container is gonna be the one that we animate. So let's take care just of the sunset sidebar for now. Sunset sidebar is gonna be equal to position absolute, and the position absolute is going to be top 0, right 0, and we can do a couple of ways to make it fit for the entire height, because if we access the design file, you will see that the sidebar is has the same height of the entire body. I did this type of design on purpose because I wanted to remember that this sidebar, even if I have one widget or like 0 widget, it doesn't stop to the height of the content, but it goes 100% to the height of the browser. So we could do in a couple of ways. First, let's activate the background color that we define here. So let's access this. Let's check this color is 1F, 1F, 1F. That's beautiful color. Oh my God, so good. So let's define a background color with the same color code. Let's go back in our front and let's check what we did. Now we have the sidebar that it's right here. We cannot see it because it's underneath the header, but the sidebar has to be totally on top of everything. So we have to define the Z index to be 9. I'm defining 9, I'm using 9 as a code because I remember that during my the definition of all my classes, all my styles, I never used a Z class, a Z index higher than 9. So 9 is the highest number that I use. Just to be sure, let's do a research around here. I use 1 and that's it. I never used anything higher than 9. Sometimes you will see in some websites or some source code that you have some Z index like 99999, just to be sure that the element defined is absolutely on top of everything, because especially if you use your code with something else, another widget, another plugin, something could be absolutely like on top of your own code, and maybe you don't want that. If this is a really important section, you want to put absolutely above everything. So you could do this, but if you have many elements and you have to define a hierarchy of what's on top, what's on the bottom, what's above, what's underneath, having this type of numbers can be really confusing. So let's keep it really simple. Let's try to manage it with just one single number, that in my case is 9. Let's save it. Let's go back here. Let's refresh. And now everything is on top. So first we have to define a fixed position, because if we scroll, this has to be scrolled as well, has to remain scrolled. So let's say position instead of absolute. Let's say fixed. Let's go back here, refresh. And now if we scroll, the sidebar remains absolutely fixed on top. Second, we want by default, because we declare pretty dark background color, we want the color text to be absolutely white, but then most likely we're gonna manage all these links uniquely to be adapted to this stuff. So now we have the issue of being 100%. We can do it in a couple of ways. First, we could use the height definition of height. And if you want to define height, I strongly suggest you to never do 100%, because 100% can variate based on the browser. Most of the time, 100% of the browser of Internet Explorer is completely different of the 100% of Google Chrome. To be almost sure that if you want an element to be as high as the browser windows, you should use VH. VH stands for viewport height, and the VH is gonna detect automatically the height of your viewport and apply the exact same height to the element where it's associated to. This works perfectly on every browser, but has some weird quirky issue with iOS. So the other solution that you could have is having a bottom 0. And with the bottom 0, if we remove for a moment the height 100 VH and we refresh, it still remains here, because we set to the sidebar to stay on top 0 and bottom 0. So it doesn't matter how big is our window, this sidebar is going to be absolutely always attached to the bottom. Also, this bottom 0 value has sometimes some issue with iOS as well, especially Safari or Chrome on iOS, like those type of mobile browser. So to be 100% sure and absolutely sure, let's leave both bottom 0 and 100 viewport height as a definition of height. But in the future, in a couple lessons, when the sidebar is fully defined and we have to check if it works on mobile, responsive, and check everything, we're gonna apply some specific unique fixes to the sidebar to make it work perfectly on every browser and every device. So don't worry, for now, let's just leave it like that and don't stress too much about it. Now we have to define a specific width. So if we access back our design to check, you will notice that this sidebar is 280 pixel of width, and 280 is perfect because it will fit perfectly also on the iPhone 5 or iPhone 4 if someone is still using that. But the 280 width fits perfectly pretty much on every mobile device, but we can take care also of that type of stuff. Sometimes could happen that the user has a smaller screen, like is using a really small device and is accessing our website from that device. In order to avoid issue, because we cannot define simply a width of 280 pixels, because if the user has something smaller and won't fit, we have to use first a width of 100%, but then force the max width to say that don't go over 280 pixels. So the width is 100%. This container has to go 100% width, but if the width goes over 280 pixels, let's just stop there, don't go over. But if someone is smaller than 280 pixels, the width of the container is gonna readapt based on the size of the device, and this is pretty handy and useful. So if we refresh, now we have our sidebar completely fixed, stick to the right on top of everything with the max width of 280 pixels. Well, it's pretty much it for the first lesson of the sidebar. I'm gonna release more lessons. I think we're gonna do 4 or 5 different parts for the sidebar because we have a lot of stuff. I don't want to confuse too much, but we're gonna first style a little bit. We're gonna activate the animation to open it and close, and then we're gonna create our custom widgets, and it's gonna be pretty awesome. Well, that's pretty much it for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. And if you want, you can spend a couple of minutes to check the support me page on my website, where you can find all different ways and methods to support me, support my channel, and help me to do better videos and better tutorials for you. Thank you again, guys, and until the next lesson, as usual, happy coding!